Hey, James Clay at BimmerWorld talking about Spec E46 today. So what is Spec E46? So all the cars are E46 330s. So that was the non-M, which means all your replacement parts are cheaper. You don't have to buy these M parts that are limited production, more valuable, etc. It's the non-M car with the big motor. So the 330 has the 3-liter motor and really good power. The same power as like an E36 M3 in BMW world. So really good power, good capable car. And we kind of applied the same approach that we did to our touring cars, except at a totally different price point. We limited things to things that somebody could easily inspect so that we could make sure all the cars were the same. And to me, what we've come up with is a car, if you build it yourself, you're gonna spend about 30 grand. If you pay a shop to build it, it's gonna be a lot more depending on level of finish, just because the hours involved. But they're easy to run. It's like a Spec Miata on steroids. It's brake pads, it's tires, it's fuel, and not a lot of any of those things. So the cars are robust. They don't go through consumables. They don't break parts. They're just super reliable. And so even when you're not in a spec field, and I think this is key, when you're not in a spec field, these cars are still fast and still fun to race. So it's a great series, it's drawing a lot of people, and then of course it snowballs. So what's better than a spec race with 50 cars that are all the same? And that's the kind of thing we get out here. There's always someone to race. Given the parity of the cars is so similar, if you're racing in the front, it's knockdown, drag out, great racing, and with guys that are super capable, and mid-pack, great racing because the cars are so similar. It's a fast car, it's not overly powerful. We're 225 at the wheels. It makes great grip, so it rolls good speed through the corners. Because it doesn't have just huge torque and big power, it's easy for somebody to jump into and drive quickly. The car is not going to get away from you really quickly with the throttle pedal. It encourages you to carry corner speed, and really, to me, that makes it a driver's car because that's the skill that people are trying to fine-tune without all the craziness of these massive brakes or super sticky tires or big motor. So it really is, it's a tame car to drive, certainly moderately paced, but even at the front end of the field, it's still a tame car to drive, pretty easy to manage. We have a power limit in Spec E46, and pull something out of the junkyard and run it, and it's going to be just as good as something that somebody throws a bunch of money into it. But beyond that, if I think about age of car, it's everything in the car. It's just these cars are more readily available, and they're not clapped out and worn out. And I'm talking like down to the wiring harness. A wiring harness in a 30-year-old car is a problem. And when you go to the track and you fight electrical gremlins because you've got a 30-year-old harness that's been banging around inside the car, that's super frustrating. So it's an opportunity to get into a newer car at a reasonable price point. So if I'm buying a Spec E46, or if I'm buying a donor car for a Spec E46, I'm cheap. I want a super cheap car. If I can find one for 2 grand, that's great. About 3 grand these days. Car prices have gone up a little bit, but I want something that's really the way we build a car. I want something that's been abused. I want something that has no rust. I will not buy something north of Maryland just because that's where the rust comes. Or if it's lived north of there. You find some super nice cars that have spent winters inside and so forth if they're lower miles. But for a Spec E46 donor, I'm not concerned about higher miles. 150 doesn't bother me. 200, don't care. When it starts to be 250 or so, I think about there's a lot of stuff that that I would prefer to just run as is on the race car that I'm probably going to have to replace. But just if it needs suspension and brakes and tires and it's a little beat up and all the things that make something cheap that I can go find on Craigslist or go find in the Facebook marketplace, that's what I'm buying for a Spec E46 donor. All we want is more people to race at the front for the win. So just a great series. I love Spec E46, and 5 or 6 years later, after we started the class, it's just blossomed into something amazing.
Support brands that support grassroots motorsports. Get your chemical solutions from CRC Industries. Visit crcindustries.com to learn more.